Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bede?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Good.
Um, what I want to talk about today, and discuss with you in the light of the course, is a phenomena of how we seem to be stuck and nothing changes. We seem to kind of, no matter what we do, no matter how much we try to fix ourselves or to deal with ourselves, we seem to have the same types of problems, the same types of upsets, the same types of things happening to us. And we struggle to fix the problem. Do you know what I mean? We try to fix the problem. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. Okay.
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 Sounds good.
Now, when I was a young fella, I was in a Catholic seminary, and we were introduced to this idea of repetition compulsion, Dr. Freud's repetition compulsion, and we were given a clinical example of this girl. She had a father who was an alcoholic and who beat her up. And you can understand that that's a terrible experience. The fact that of an unhappy circumstance where you've got an abusive father who beats you up and gets drunk. And so she just longed for a time where she would that wouldn't be happening, which is totally understandable. Suddenly, then she fell in love, and it was absolutely perfect. She married the guy, and guess what? He was an alcoholic, and he beat her up.
Yeah.
So, and she, like this was unfortunate, you know what I mean? Like, so it was terribly miserable for her or whatever. So she got rid of him, and then she fell in love with another man. And guess what? He was an
Wow.
alcoholic who beat her up.
Yeah.
And then she did it three times, right? Now and I was thinking, okay, and and the so what this showed was that there seems to be a compulsion to repeat. Freud called it repetition compulsion, a compulsion to keep on repeating what we're like,
Yeah.
keeping what we're like in place by this uh, compulsive doing. And the other thing is when you get compulsion, you've always got anxiety, you've got fear. So that the compulsion protects you against fear. Now that sounds weird. I mean, why would someone who consciously they want to be happy, and yet any guy that comes along, and I've talked to my daughter about this. She says, Dad, I've got friends. They just even they're only attracted to horrible men. Do you know what I mean? They're not interested
Yeah.
in whatever. And when I was at school, when I was a young fellow at school, about primary school, there was a young kid who used to get beaten up by his father. You know what I mean? And in those days, the teachers would beat you if you were bad.
Yeah.
He would then and then he would do things that were so provocative to elicit punitive responses from the teacher. Do you know what I mean? And like, and I think, why is he doing that? Like, because he's getting hammered at school and he's getting hammered at home.
Yeah.
And um, so there's a phenomena where um, it's like Heraclitus. There's a Greek philosopher, the name of Heraclitus. He says character is destiny. So you
Mm.
got this character. We're being a character, and
Yeah.
once you know the character, you know the end of the story. We compulsively live it out. It's like an instruction for a drama that keeps on repeating.
Yeah. I remember hearing that we all try to recreate the emotional atmosphere we grew up in. Same
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. So
know.
our sense of identity is an instruction to remain the same and keep on repeating with the
Mhm.
same type of experience. So there's this compulsion to repeat, which Freud called a repetition compulsion.
Yeah.
I won't go into the explanations that he gave to it weren't very satisfying. He, but but
Mhm.
but he did recognize the phenomena. And I think, and when I first heard it, I thought, that reminds me of me. Like
Yeah.
I'd have the same types of upsets and the same types of things like that. So we have a phenomena that we're enclosed in a sense of identity that's very fixed. And when I went to India, the reason I went to India to study Vedanta was because the teacher understood that the problem wasn't a compulsion per se; it was a problem of identity.
Yeah.
And and having a fixed identity and maintaining that identity and living it out. And so now, if we're in a situation like that where we're enclosed in a sense of identity that's so solid and it protects us against fear and all of that stuff. I mean, even that might agree, because the fact of the matter is that from the course's point of view, we're so afraid of being nothing, because then we're not special. Do you know what I mean? But when we're being a dramatization, we've got our life is together, and we're existing as a separate being, separate and apart from other people who's suffering from various things. And so one of the most interesting things that I found with the course, which I've been studying since February of this year, is that there's a principle: we're never upset for the reason we think. But one thing that I'm absolutely sure of, and I've always been sure of, I know why I'm upset. I have this real fixed idea. I know why I'm upset. It's because of my wife, because I'm getting old, because I'm sick, because I'm totally certain about what I'm upset about, right? And then, and from there, I try to deal with my problem. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, I mean, once we decide what we're upset about, then all of our energy is going to go towards that and perpetuate our situation, because we'll always see the problem as being something outside of me that I had no control over, and now I have to deal with it. So when the Course says I'm never upset for the reason I think, that's really a statement about the fundamental nature of our being and our lives, which comes from a thought of hatred. So this world
When you
is
say
set
when you
up.
say a thought of hatred, can you just amplify that, please?
Yes. So the world, we go back to, the beginning of the metaphysical chart. The world was made as an attack on God. So everything that seems to be reflected in this world comes from a thought of murder, the murder of God and oneness. So we're so far removed from that in our day-to-day lives, but what gave rise to the situation where we repeat the same pattern over and over again, like you said, is a hate thought, a murderous thought. The thought of separation. To separate off from is to kill off. So we've killed off this truth in us, and we're left with the opposite of what that truth was. The truth is love, we're left with hatred. So the way that plays out in the world is that it is set up to fail us. The people, the circumstances, the institutions, they're all set up to fail us and reflect back to us this idea that they are to blame for the way that I feel. As long as I continue in that path, seeing the blame outside of me for what I experience, really for what I am, whatever I become as my circumstances produced. Now I'm an angry person because of what they did. Now I'm unforgiving because of what they did. So the process of the course is to be first be exposed to the idea I am not upset for the reason I think, and break that pattern, because we can at least see in the pattern, even when we're in the midst of it, there seems to be no way out. It will be one problem after another, and we will always be seeking a solution and never finding it. We'll never find a solution that brings us the peace we look for.
So when we're looking at our life, if we start the starting point of our life as as it plays out, is it's one of constant conflict. So when you see, for example, I know what it's like. My experience is broken up into the object that's upsetting me, which might be a feeling that I'm having, it might be thinking that I'm thinking, it might be what people are saying and doing, it might be the condition of my body, it might be the external circumstances. I've got this object there that which is an experience that's happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm taking that experience to becoming happening to me when actually it's happening from me, from the course's point of view. But I can't see that. So because I think it's happening, and then I'm on the receiving end of this experience. Do you know what I mean? The suffering being who's having the experience that's determining exactly how I am, how I'm. So as far as I'm concerned, we hear the expression, "You made me angry. This is
Yeah.
really annoying me." This is so the the experience is extremely convincing, isn't it? But when we look at the human life, what's characteristic of it, we're always in conflict. We're always in friction. So our experience is broken up to being a resistor to the resisted, and we can't help but feel a tremendous sense of victimization because if only that object didn't exist, I would be fine. I truly believe that. If I, I would, if this wasn't happening, I would be happy. Therefore, because I believe that it's the object in front of me that's causing me to be unhappiness, I have to try and fix the object in order to find happiness. So I try to fix myself. I try to fix my relationships. Can you speak to that, please? That
Yes.
futile effort to
Yeah.
try and solve my inward upset through external means, based on the fact that it's something external, even if it's a feeling, it's still something, an object I'm facing and experiencing.
Yeah.
Could you just speak about that, please?
Yeah, I'm going to quote The Real Alternative. The first line says,
Mm.
there's a tendency to think the world can offer consolation and escape from problems that its purpose is to keep.
Oh,
So,
can you repeat that again slowly?
yeah,
Yep.
there's a tendency to think, more than a tendency, really, but that the
Yeah.
world, the world can offer consolation and escape from problems that its purpose is to keep. So, it does seem like sometimes we get rid of something that we think's bothering us and it seems to work. That's part of what perpetuates that constantly looking outside of ourselves to solve problems. So, I may be upset by somebody. I might be upset by a job and I quit my job and I feel better. So there's this little moment in time where my whole worldview is validated. It was my job until the next thing comes along. And then the next and the next, and spend my whole life doing that.
Yeah, Schopenhauer, who I like, he was a philosopher. He said that happiness, actually, the experience of happiness is that you just have a momentary relief to the misery,
Yeah.
and you take this to be happiness. And so here we are. You see, when I, what there's another very interesting principle in the course is that we see it because we believe it. And I'd like to use an example that when I was studying Vedanta in India, that they used, which was the snake in the rope idea. So what happened was in the corner there's a rope sitting in the corner. It's slightly darker. Then you think it's a snake.
Hmm.
So then you go, oh, and you're totally afraid. But you don't realize that what you're looking at is you're looking at the notion there is a snake in the corner, the conclusion, but you're not aware that you're looking at a conclusion. The conclusion, there's a snake in the corner, is projected out as an object. Now you
Yeah.
think there's an external object, a snake,
Right.
that's upsetting you, but in actual fact, it's your belief there's a snake in the corner
Mhm.
taking the form of your experience, and now you're being hammered by an experience, whatever. But in fact, it's not an objective experience. It's in your mind, but you think it's outside and external, and now you fight with it. Could you make comment on that?
Yeah, that's a great example of cause and effect because what's outside of you couldn't possibly have caused the experience because it's not what you thought it was. It's only your belief about it that caused you to be upset and has literally nothing to do with the truth of what you're looking at. If it's a rope, it's my thought that it poses a threat to me, and I'll respond to that. We the fear that attends seeing ourselves as bodies in a world cannot be escaped while we're asleep and dreaming. We would have to transcend it. We can't continue down the same path without questioning the conclusions, questioning the premises of our lives.
Right. So
Maybe
what
saying,
we so what you're saying is that um, the judgment, there is a snake in the corner. That judgment that says what reality is. There is a
Yeah,
snake in the corner. That judgment is what you're looking at.
right.
So that, and so when I look at my life, I look at, myself, I go, I'm constantly making judgments, which are my beliefs about
Yeah,
reality. I'm
it
unhappy
grows.
now. I'm this now. They are that now. They are this now. I
Yeah.
feel that I'm actually living in an external world that I'm suffering from. But from the course's point of view, I'm seeing it because I believe it.
Yes, exactly. I see it because I believe it, and I believe it because I want it to be true.
Oh,
That's the law of perception. So why would I want it to be true that somebody is hurting me? Because then they're the guilty one and I'm the innocent one. And what I really want to do is prove that I am innocent. And I'm not responsible for the way I feel. I'm not responsible for anything that's gone wrong. Ultimately, I'm trying to prove that to God, um, so that he'll come after the guy next to me instead of me.
right. So what we have is we have this tremendous appetite for victimizing. So what you're saying is we
Mhm.
have this tremendous appetite for victimization for two reasons. The first thing is it's not me. I'm not the problem. Okay,
Right?
I'm not the problem. And this is what Wapnick says. The ego eats its cake, has its cake, and eats it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm not the problem. Now, because I'm not the problem and I'm an innocent victim, the tremendous that relieves me from a tremendous sense of self-loathing because I'm the innocent one. I'm the person who doesn't deserve this. I'm pristine and of course all of this is unconscious. It's not like it's not
Right.
it's
Right.
it's 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 an unconscious desire
Mhm.
to be unfairly treated, which is seems a strange thing. But when I was talking about that young boy and the girl, the example of the repetition compulsion,
Mhm.
I have an active desire to be unfairly treated. Now, when it's very interesting when you hear people talk, they complain and they bitch about this and that and the other. All of these things keep on going on and on. How bad life is, and it's sort of like, you wonder, like talk shows. They talk about how bad everything is and how, not saying there's not bad things, but the delicious experience of feeling that 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 there's something wrong with the world and it's victimizing us, and that we're the innocent ones, we're the good people talking about these bad people there or this bad situation here. We
Yeah.
see this phenomena all over the place, all over
Yeah.
the place. Like we see people when we like we have this compulsion or desire to find fault because when we're judging others,
Mhm.
so this self-hatred that the course talks about that we have that is completely unconscious. We see the people attacking others verbally and saying how bad they are and whatever. We're completely unconscious that we're dramatizing our own self-hatred by projecting it onto others. So we're hating others that lifts the burden so we don't have to hate ourselves. But we're not aware of that fact. But from the course's perspective, this is the difference between the famous Plato thing. What seems to be, and what really is.
Yeah.
We're caught in the blindness of what seems to be. It seems
Yeah.
to be that I'm a victim of external things. It seems that it's my wife or my spouse, my husband, who's causing me the trouble. It seems that my unhappiness is external. But what we're looking at with the course is that while I believe while I
Mhm.
believe that seems to be, and
Yeah.
so we're caught in a constant we're making reality judgments all the time. This is happening, and this is why it's happening, and I don't like that. So all
Mhm.
my this repetition of my judgments, which are like constantly like the snake, it produces an experience that I think that I'm suffering from, but it's actually coming from me. But I
Yeah.
don't realize that. And if I
Mhm.
remain in that blindness, I'll never be able to get out of it because the fact is the premise of what I'm looking at is, yeah, I'm upset because of what my wife has said.
Yeah.
And then that will necessitate that I try and deal with her, like what you said before. And then I've got the next problem. But
Right.
but what's interesting is that the course says something about that the purpose of the world is to keep us so occupied so we never discover the problem is centered on us. Can you say something about that, please?
Yes. I think that uh, there's the idea in the course that we look within, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then we look out and we see it. We're not consciously aware of that decision. We're not consciously aware that we're projecting our own guilt outside of us. What we deny in ourselves, we're not aware of. We automatically project it. So whenever I see guilt, I can intellectually understand that's a projection of something that's within me. It is not independent from me. I'm not witnessing an objective reality that I have nothing to do with at all. I have decided what I want to see, and I saw it accordingly. So now I can say the guilt that I've denied in myself is outside of me. It exists outside of me. It's not in me, and I feel safe. And whenever I see that, even though we're not consciously aware of this too, we are rejoicing at the thought that there is guilt in that other person or that other circumstance, something outside of me, because it's not in me and I just want to get rid of it.
Right. So what you're saying is that this feeling of badness centered on ourselves is so unpleasant, and also because there's also a fear to do with it because guilt demands punishment. So to get anywhere near the guilt centered on us is very, very scary because it means that we can get chopped, we can get punished.
Yeah. And the funny
So
thing is, it doesn't even work. We still feel terrible.
yeah, yeah. So so we've got this tremendous guilt centered on ourselves. We deny it. We then have a compulsion to project it out because what you repress, you must project. And so we've got an agenda to constantly see the badness and the evilness and the terribleness in other people. But what an actual fact is that what we're unconsciously doing is we're trying to hide from the fact that in ourselves we have this tremendous problem, which I believe is called the unholy Trinity.
Mm.
We feel tremendously alone, and which is a tremendously painful experience. We feel tremendously self-hating, and we have this tremendous fear of annihilation. And so this is so frightening and so unpleasant
Mhm.
that we project it out. So the problem is not centered on me. I'm not like this. I'm innocent. I would be very good, and I would be happy if people would just do exactly what I want, or the world was exactly the way that I am.
Yeah.
But the problem is with that is that if if it's true, if it actually is true that external things make me unhappy, there is absolutely no solution to human life because it means that for the rest of my life, I'm going to be battling with objects that I believe are my problem. I'm going to blame them. I'm going to fight. And I will continue with what the Course sees the main problem is that I have a blindness because I don't understand that the problem of suffering and upset is centered on me. I think it's centered on things that are external. If that's true, the idea of freedom, the idea of a way of being in the world that's not determined by external events is
Mhm.
not possible for us, is it?
No, and Ken called us puppets. We're all puppets here until we choose again and see things differently. We're just playing out the same thing over and over again. Every story is exactly the same in the world. There's just different forms, different symbols involved, but every one of it is a everyone's story is a victim story. And and counterintuitively or oddly, if it wasn't, we would lose the illusion of satisfaction because the satisfaction comes from seeing guilt outside of us. So
Mm.
we actually need the world to fail us all the time. I mean, how would we even, if we really understood my experience is divorced from the figures, forms, and symbols around me. If I really understood that and saw that, what would I be?
Can you explain that a bit more? I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Well, the Course teaches what you experience has nothing at all to do with the dream. The forms and figures in the dream. We point our fingers at them and blame them for our experience, but our experience is divorced from an illusion, and hallucination cannot produce an experience, just like the rope in the corner of the room cannot produce our experience. Nothing in this world gave birth to fear in me, anger in me,
Ah,
you know,
right,
it didn't happen.
right. So the
Nothing
snake,
happened.
so the snake isn't causing me the upset.
Right, right.
The snake isn't. It
It
seems
can't.
that it
It can't.
is.
Yeah, it can't
It's
be true.
right now. Now this brings us to an interesting point. Is that so? Here we are. We're enclosed in delusion. We're always
Hmm.
looking at snakes. Whatever
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
The,
It's
the
all
snake of our upset wife. We're always looking at something external.
right.
So while we're enclosed in this way of seeing, and it's a way of seeing, so we're enclosed in judgment, reality judgments,
Hmm.
which is anterior to those, of course, is the thought of separation. But we'll just stick with our.
Yeah.
We're closed with these reality judgments that automatically are coming into play, producing the experience, unknowingly producing our experience of ourselves, other people in the world.
Hmm.
So the interesting thing is the only thing you see, I can try and to deal with my problem. I can try and whip the snake. You maybe meditate and try and get peaceful in the face of the snake. I might
Hmm.
try and attack the
Right.
snake, ignore
Yeah.
the snake, all these things.
Hmm.
What is required is that what's got to come alive in me is that I have to see what really is. So the thing is that no matter what I do to the snake's not going to work. So action
Yeah.
is not going to change anything. Behavior is
Right.
not going to change this. But
No.
what you're saying is, if I can actually, what if I can actually come and actually see truthfully, just see, my goodness, is only a rope here.
Yes.
The whole experience will disappear.
Yeah.
And it's disappeared because I'm seeing the truth. I'm
Right.
seeing what really is as opposed to what seems to be. So, from my understanding, is that the Course is an instrument that awakens us to what really is. And when we see what really is,
Yeah.
uh, the mirage that we were so certain is upsetting us is set aside without effort on our part. But what frees us is, I was always impressed by our Western tradition, Western scriptures. Knowing the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
Is that? Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think that a lot of people have the experience when they study the Course that they see the beauty in it. And it solves the problem of evil and it answers every question that you could ever raise. And um, it's a beautiful expression. There's actually a line, I think it's actually in the Gifts of God, not the Course proper,
Hmm.
but who would hesitate to leave a dream of shock and terror if he could see it was but a dream? And so the only thing that keeps us here, you can call it desire, but
Hmm.
also there's fear. We believe we have to go through a greater terror, an annihilation of the self we think we are. And so I think that's what perpetuates it, even though understanding the words illusion, dream, um, really tells us everything we need to know about our world and what we chose, but we have to practice, and that the nature of the Course. Ken used to say all the time, gosh, people have been coming to hear me talk for 30 years saying the exact same thing because we're resistant. We have this resistance and this fear in us. um, but yeah, I think no one would hesitate without those defenses in place and the defense of fear.
Right. So, just to sum up, there's not. If I'm looking at the world through my eyes,
Hmm.
and then I try to do something about that world, because what I'm seeing isn't true, but I don't know that it's not true, I
Yeah.
will constantly repeat the same problems.
Yeah.
So unless a new set of eyes comes alive in me,
Yeah.
uh, where I actually see through the mirage,
Yeah.
there's no hope for me, is there?
No, no. There isn't hope um, without an interruption.
Right,
Something, yeah.
right. So
Something that's
what we're
not of this world.
right. So the course is not we again we don't study the course. We study our life in the light of the course.
Yes, I think that's a great way to say it. And I think that, the course is part of the dream, but it doesn't perpetuate the dream. And we
Right.
have to look at the specifics in our lives and apply the course through the course's eyes to the specifics in our lives and not
And we
try to
know
not try to avoid them.
and we could say we know when we're practicing the course in the right way is because the mirage that we feel is happening to us and attacking us and causing us to feel upset. When that mirage collapses, that is the proof that the course can offer us of its truth and validity.
Yes, experience must come to prove the path.
Right. Otherwise, we're deluding ourselves.
Yeah, and then that experience where it recedes, there's a melting in, and the world recedes, and you see it through the eyes of Jesus or the truth in you, or whatever you want to refer to as the true mirror within yourself. When you see through those eyes, you'll carry that with you and have that place to go within yourself.
Right. Well, that sounds very good. So basically, so in terms of the course is not like a whole series of philosophical propositions about reality or whatever. It's an instrument that enables you to see in an entirely new way, which then makes the experiences that we're having that seem to be attacking us and seem to be our problem drop away, so that a new life opens for us. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
That was very good. Bye bye.
Thanks, Pete.